Throughout history, people have made amazing accomplishments that define themselves. Now, it's our turn to tell those accomplishments, to tell his story, her story, their story, and even your story. With Mike Wexler.
So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Britt Waters, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
You know what? It is going. It is, before we went on the air, there was a little bit of an issue with a kind of an old poster of an NBA 2K16 poster. Oh, man. I don't know how that just fell all of a sudden during this interview. So that's nice.
It's over. It was over the NBA making all these moves. The 2K poster was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. I'm out.
I know the recent moves of Carmelo Anthony going to the Lakers. You see Russell Westbrook, which I know that wasn't a big fan of yours.
I'm still processing. We'll say that. I've lost like 4 Wizards in 2 days. I'm just like, oh, my Lord.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, there is a process, and just like this green screen, it's going to be a process as well. One thing I did want to start off with is just the passionate storytelling that you provide whenever it comes to your on-air hosting, or if it comes to just any content that you make. So, of course, the title of this podcast is called Your Story. So let's talk about that really quick. Like,
yeah,
how do you, like, what is the beginnings of your story for you?
Well, I started with a degree in journalism. So that's where I learned it's all about storytelling and not just, reading headlines or telling people what they already know. It's going deeper. So I do have a show on Sirius XM, the Pandora Thumb 20. And instead of just going in between songs like, oh, hey, this is so-and-so with their new song, so-and-so, I try to dig deeper. Why did they write this song? What is this song about? Why is it relevant? Why did you put it on the countdown? Why do people like it? Where did it originate from? How were they inspired to make this song? And not just with music, with sports as well. There's always storylines within everything that you can report on. So that's what I really try to do, whether I'm talking about the community, sports, entertainment, music, or even myself.
Yeah, and what I love about the storytelling that you do provide is that, like you mentioned before, you always try to go deeper within the content that you're presenting, whether that's through music, whether that's through talking about sports, or whether you're doing your hosting as well. One thing that I'm kind of interested in knowing too is that I feel like a lot of broadcasters now have that love for knowing the details, knowing the history about certain aspects of their content.
Really? You think that?
Yeah, compared to like 10, 12 years ago, it was like, yeah, here's the content. I don't know anything about it now. There it is. So like, do you feel like that with current broadcasters, or do you feel like it's the total opposite?
I don't. I feel like journalism has grown in such a positive way. It's a thing where people repost old interviews and you see how toxic people were and how inappropriate and how insensitive things used to be when it comes to the shock jocks or how people treated famous people. Mm-hmm. But now I think it's different in the hiring process. A lot of people and organizations will hire people because of clout or because they were a former athlete or because they're pretty or because they have a lot of TikTok followers. No shade to TikTok. I love TikTok. I am a TikToker. My wrestling opinion's on TikTok. But I see it happen a lot, and I feel like it's not being protective of what journalism is and what the stories are. If you hired an Instagram model to host a red carpet, don't expect her to go deep in interviews if she's never done it before. It's not her fault. It's the person that hired her's fault. So I hope that people do invest in good hosts and good journalists and good interviewers and people who are knowledgeable and passionate about it. Because even if you don't have the same background as me or proper training or experience, if you're passionate about it, you will do the research. You will try to come with respect to someone and their story. I think that's why so many celebrities and athletes don't even do media anymore, because they'd rather trust their own story being told through social media instead of, someone trying to come up off of them and ask them something inappropriate just so they can go viral.
Yeah, I feel like, and I agree to you to that point where a lot of times journalism students or broadcasters or just athletes in general, they always like to go just put a headline out there that's just going to make them clickbait on something, or they're going to say something controversial that it's going to be like, oh, well, there's a news headline. So I feel like that, going to your point, like there's very few people nowadays that actually want to do the actual research on something and actually put out the real information rather than just the kind of the clickbait information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be an actress. I don't want to be a singer. I'm not trying to be an athlete. I'm not trying to be a pro wrestler. I love what I do, and I think that's the core of it. And if the real world of this job is that it's not about you. People don't come to Wizards games to see me, to hear me talk, to watch me hype crowds. They're there for the basketball or for the business meeting or for the date they're on. So you have to be unselfish in that aspect to really get the job done. And I think that's why I've been so successful in the field, because I know that it's not about me. I'm not out here trying to be a celebrity.
Oh yeah, when you and that's kind of a cool thing as well, because as a broadcaster myself, I always have that same strategy of trying to make the bigger picture, as much as I can to make it that bigger picture. Like whenever it comes to wrestling, whether it comes to sports, trying to tell that, have that piece as that story is truly something that helps you elevate not only yourself but also the people that you're working with.
100%. You got it.
So one thing that I did want to mention as well is that before we get into how you got into the Wizards and the Mystics, is also your professional wrestling love and passion. You do have a wrestling show on Instagram, like I mentioned before, called My Wrestling Opinion.
And TikTok. It's on TikTok too. I actually do more on TikTok now than Instagram.
Oh, wow. So before we get into that, let's actually talk about that. Is that, you have been going on to TikTok more than Instagram itself. So do you find it's more of a freedom trail per se, like for you to, openly get more creative on TikTok rather than reels or anything on Instagram?
Yeah. And I find it to be super niche down. Like I'll post something about hosting for the Olympic exhibition games, and TikTok will be like, okay, we don't care. I say something about wrestling, it goes crazy. And I think it's just an established core group of wrestling TikTokers on that platform. When on the other side, Instagram, people have been following me for 10 years now. So they're my friends, they're my family, they're people in my community, they're people in all of the cities that I've been doing radio on when I was nationally syndicated. It's a different vibe. It's not just wrestling people. So I try to diversify my content more on Instagram. I still give all my wrestling people the stuff eventually. It just hits TikTok first.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we cannot forget when it comes to the wrestling content as well on Instagram, when it comes to the Chalkline drip that you have going on, and whether that's through the jackets, through the, I believe it was shorts as well. I mean, I think Chalkline's a great little advertisement there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Chalkline is a community. It's just we're going to collect everything that we can and stunt on the gram. And I love it. And especially it's felt like a more connection after the pandemic. I mean, I started my wrestling show. I was interviewing people in line at shows. So I was doing it DC and then Baltimore and then Philly and the first Dynamite. And then, show stopped. And I was like, well, there goes my show idea. I guess I'm only going to have 5 episodes. And one of my friends was like, no, just do it without people being in line for shows. Do it with people online. And that's kind of how my wrestling opinion started. And I was just like, okay, I'll put my opinion out there and see if anybody wants to go live and share theirs with me, even though we're not in line at a show. And I think the wrestling community really missed those conversations in line at shows or with the person next to you at a show, or just those authentic moments that you share with these strangers. So I tried to replicate it online, and it was really cool. To have you on my show and you bring all of your knowledge and passion and predictions and opinions. So I was glad to be able to do that.
I love it when other wrestling fans, or just other fans in particular, you don't necessarily have to be a wrestling fan to actually have that discussion. Because for me, and especially because of the pandemic, I've noticed that there's a lot of more interaction when it comes to, like you mentioned before, TikTok, or if it's Instagram lives. And when wrestling is brought up, you have a hooray, or a whole array of people just going in as one, just talking about this one certain topic, especially if it's going towards professional wrestling.
Yeah, it's like a secret club, secret society. It's great to be a part of. It's very different than sports too, because you can talk at length about things you agree on and things you disagree on. If I see someone walking down the street with a Macho Man shirt on, if it wasn't a gift to them, they don't know what's going on, I know I can talk to them for hours. And that's crazy.
I know it's crazy just to have a conversation about one that in particular topic that is professional wrestling. But one thing I did want to mention as well is the passion that you have for the sports side of things. When it comes to basketball, when it comes to just sports in general, you always have that whenever you present it on television or at a game in front of fans. You always have that passion behind you whenever you do present that content. So, where does that kind of passion ignite for you? Is it through family? Is it something that you just grew up and it always been there, or where has that started for you?
Oh my goodness. I did not have a choice on being a sports fan. I was born into it. My family grew up obsessed with Philadelphia sports, and I just was right there. I think I probably had an Eagles onesie on as a baby. Like, it's just how I was raised, and it's how my whole family connects. It's what we talk about over Thanksgiving dinner. You know, my dad will text me as soon as games are happening. It's definitely a family affair. And I grew up in South Jersey. We're right outside of Philadelphia, so we have some of the most passionate fans in the entire country. So I think you just lean towards it. And being so close to Philly and having passionate fans, me being an Eagles fan, but also being around one of the best cities for pro wrestling. You know, growing up in the ECW era where it wasn't weird to be a wrestling fan. It was just normal. It was commonplace. And it's one of those things that I just value so much and I can't let go of. So I knew it was where my career was probably going to end up going.
Yeah, I believe that family always inspires you, especially kind of the environment around you kind of
Yeah.
inspires you sometimes just to be that fan. I remember my family, I was born the night that Vince McMahon won the Royal Rumble back in 1989. And I remember
Wow.
my mom had that VHS, that pay-per-view actually bought. And when I was born, she's like, you better put it on the TV. After all that, I'm like, oh my God, you actually did that. And there's actual video of that happening.
Wow. I think my parents had like the Phillies game on at their wedding. I hope I got that right. It was something like the World Series. They were getting married and they had like TVs. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how when you look back at stuff now and how much had like history stuff, whether that's through sports or professional wrestling, has happened. You're like, dang, like I was born during a good year.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, one thing when you talk about being born during a good year, one thing I did want to mention too is that when you find, we mentioned before about how the community, we connect through our communities and how much we, common interests such as professional wrestling, basketball, baseball, whatever the case may be, always brings that, to a bigger community than we kind of already made. So one thing I do have to ask is that, how do you feel as a content creator and as a broadcaster whenever you get the chance to connect with others? Does it make you ignite that passion for what you're doing now even more? Or does that kind of give you that reminder of like, man, what I'm doing is pretty cool?
Oh, I think I have the coolest job in the world. Are you kidding me? Um, it woke me up when the pandemic first hit, and I was just like, we had to see what life would be like without sports. And it wasn't just the basketball or the football or the sports that I missed. It was talking to the season ticket holders before the game. I was like, when am I ever going to see them? It was having those Twitter friendly wars with people of opposing teams. It was those things that I missed more than anything else. Or it was like collaborating with people like you and everyone else. I was like, if sports doesn't happen, how do we continue these relationships? So I value what I do so much. And to know that I am part of people's memories that they're making for the rest of their life or just having genuine emotions. People ride for their teams just as hard as they ride for their family and themselves. So be a part of those really monumental moments is amazing. And I hope we never have to go back to a life without sports because it wasn't great.
Well, I mean, I did see through your Instagram, and people have witnessed when you did have to do those games with no fans inside the arena. And it was kind of one of those moments, at least for me as an outsider, that was like, it had to feel so different, especially not getting that genuine reaction from an actual crowd. More so, it was kind of, I don't know if they actually did those like put in sounds of fans just cheering or if they just did it silent, but it had to feel weird.
Oh my goodness, it was so strange. I'm like talking to cardboard people, but also we had a digital platform. So we were talking to people all over the world. The Wizards are such a wide organization that, we have players from Japan, we have players from Israel, we have Wizards fans all over the world in different time zones who will wake up just to hear us tell them to make some noise. So it was great. And it also allowed us to see things differently from a player perspective, how much they feed off the crowd and how much they're not paying attention to us, but having us there was a little piece of normalcy that made it a little bit more clear for them. It felt like we had a deeper connection to them than we've had in the past because, there wasn't 20,000 other distractions happening. So it was definitely a struggle. And I definitely was tearful when we got fans back because I was like, this is what we signed up for. This is what we're doing this for. Money aside, TV aside, it's the people who are right there watching you. It's the kid in the 400 seats who is screaming, thinking that you're going to look at them. Like all of those things matter. So I was definitely emotional, especially in Vegas. I was like, wow, I am announcing in front of fans that are cheering on America, Australia, Spain. It was crazy to be on an international stage and have that contact back. And it made me realize just how fortunate we really are.
Oh yeah, I mean, when we have that privilege to be in front of an audience or be in front of physical people, especially since the pandemic taught us otherwise, I mean, it feels so special because you just feed that energy off. And, of course, there's some people that don't like that energy. There's people that love that energy. But either way, just the feeling of having people there, I feel like really, especially during the time of a pandemic, really feeds off just the boost of energy that you have. And that positivity just goes through the roof.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you said it perfectly. That's how I feel. Like you feed off of that energy. It gets you through the day. You can make it through work if you're going to a game later. Like, you can make it through work if you get to talk a whole bunch of stuff about how your team beat up on your coworker's team the night before. Like, if there was a huge twist or when Sasha Banks came back, I know I can talk about it the next day. Or when you have a sports figure that you relate to, it just makes you feel good. I remember during Kofi Mania time, I was really here. Nobody could tell me anything was wrong in the world. The power of positivity was actually real in my life because I just believed in it. I was like, if it can get Kofi to win, WrestleMania and win the WWE Championship after 11 years, maybe I'll try this positivity thing and see where it takes me. So it definitely touches people in a way that you could not really explain.
It's those moments that really get you out of reality per se, like this moment, like Kofi Mania that happened, and that you have people from all over the world being happy, genuinely happy for this moment. I mean, I remember when I watched WrestleMania 29, I'm hoping I'm getting that right. Or no, not 29. Why did I say 29? 35. There you go.
Okay. I'm not taking it quite back.
But no, like I remember watching that and it was just a surreal moment. I remember I was at a watch party and the whole crowd from that room of like 200 people, I think it was in this one small little room, popped so hard and I just felt the emotion of that moment. So shout out to you, Kofi, if you're watching this, hopefully.
Yes. There he is. He's watching. He's right there.
And speaking about your wall really quick, I did want to mention about your degree. One thing,
really expensive piece of paper.
So as a college student myself, pursuing a bachelor's degree, can you talk to us about like the process that you had to go throughout school and being a journalist student as well? Like, just talk about, the hardships or if there was any struggles, talk about that as well.
Oh my goodness, yes. I'm sure things are much differently now since I was in college, but there was a turn I took. My first 2 years of college was like, okay, whatever. This is like high school times 2. And then it was like, wow, I'm really trying to take this seriously. And when you get a taste of what you want to do and you go full steam ahead, it really matters. College is where I made some of the best friends that I've ever had. I've learned some of the biggest lessons that I've had and really developed a skill and a passion and decided the level of sacrifice and hard work you're going to put into something. I think that's what takes place in college. You can be the person that parties every time and you might end up where I am too, but likely it'll be a lot harder. If you do what you need to do in college, you'll definitely position yourself for success afterwards. And you like stuff a lot more when you know what you're doing. I went to Maryland because it was one of the top journalism schools, especially for sports journalism. That's what I was concentrating on. And I have so many experiences there that I kind of revisited in my head. I was like, I know how to handle, being on an Olympic stage or hosting the WNBA finals because I kind of did it in college. I was PA announcing, men's soccer biggest tournaments and, the big moments in other sports. So it definitely felt easier because of that.
Oh yeah, when you have that experience behind you, I mean, it really helps you throughout the career field that you're going to. But I did want to mention as well, just being around passionate people, especially in college, that help you motivate to keep going and to keep going towards your career. I think really, really helps you when it comes to your career.
And train professionals. If you're going to kind of position yourself in the same city where you went to college, it's great to know and network with those people that were your professors, were your teachers, were your mentors, were people that were interning with you. And you lean on them. When I'm trying to negotiate a contract or think about a job, I go back and I'm like, who do I know from Maryland who works there? Who does what I do? I can't have the same conversations about my job with my parents and my family, or even with some of my friends who don't do what we do because they won't understand it. So if you can befriend people that you trust that do the same line of work as you, it makes it so much easier.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I remember my freshman year of college back in community college. So don't, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for not actually going to university first. But either way, I just remember during those times where I'm like, I don't know anything. Like I didn't know what a MLA formatted paper was before
Right.
college. You know what I mean? I didn't know any of those little logistics of regular college paper things or just college requirements. And then not only that, but anything about contracts, anything about, what you need in the real world per se. But then thankfully that path from going from community college to university really helped me go towards where I need to go. So I'm really thankful for those beginnings as well.
Yes. And it's a step that I always encourage. Even in the careers where you don't need it anymore, it still is a big, big, big bonus. It makes you just a level up. So I always encourage people, if you can go to school, go to school.
Absolutely. And it really helps you, like you mentioned before, getting to where you need to go. But speaking about going to where you need to go, Britt Waters is also a huge fan of professional wrestling. And of course, we've already known that Randy Orton is at that top of the list or at that top 5 of the all-time favorite wrestlers. Where did that love for professional wrestling come for you? Was it family? Was it anything of the sort?
It was kind of everything. Growing up in South Jersey, we're big fans of Philly sports. So, Philly is a big wrestling city. People
Mhm.
just have commonplace. They always love it there. Also, my older cousin Darren was obsessed with wrestling. So he's kind of been a big brother to me and my sister, the big brother we never had. So he kind of put me on to wrestling so much. So I'm so into it growing up. And then afterwards, you go through the teen phase where you'd rather watch TRL and 106 in Park than watch Raw. So that happens. But I came back to it because of John Cena. I had a love for music, and the Doctor of Thugonomics reeled me back into wrestling. But even from a career perspective, I work in entertainment and I work in sports. And pro wrestling is the perfect blend of both that. It's sports entertainment. And I think that's just everything I like. So why wouldn't I watch it? And you get so connected, you get caught up. I'm like, I can't let go of wrestling now. And at this point, I'm letting go of half my friends.
I mean, it is such a great, of course, whether you love WWE, AEW, Impact, or anything outside of the mainstream promotions. I mean, wrestling is very special because it's a story that's being told that you're just so hooked to. Maybe not at the first time, maybe not at the first few times, but it just helps you, just connect with that with that thing that you're just watching, and you're like, okay, so maybe Sasha Banks coming. Maybe non-fans will be like, hey, I don't know her. Then the next week, okay, now I'm hooked.
Oh, yeah. I love having wrestling conversations with non wrestling fans and seeing what actually gets them without playing on, like, of course, nostalgia and mentioning The Undertaker. Everyone loves him. But I can look at anyone. If I have a conversation with you, it can be about anything. I can find a wrestling clip that'll make you wanting to see more. I promise you. There's that much content across all the promotions. There's always someone that you can relate to and a storyline that you're going to find hilarious or so stupid that you're just so curious.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, there's questionable ones out there. Like, why would you name Piper Niven Dewdrop? Why would you release Bray Wyatt? Like, there's kind of a little bit questions there,
A little.
It's kind of one of those things where you're just like, but you know what? You're still there regardless. You know what I mean? Like, it's whether there's those questionable decisions, you're still there. You're still cheering on your favorite people, and you're still invested in the product. I feel like that's the most important thing.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up an Eagles fan. I'm still an Eagles fan. It took us how many years to win a Super Bowl? And that doesn't mean you just let go of being an Eagles fan. You keep believing and you keep pushing every year, no matter who your NFL team is. So even if, WWE or AEW or Ring of Honor, if they're not writing things the way you want, that doesn't mean you just give up on it.
Mm-hmm.
But outsiders don't always see it that way. They're like, if everyone keeps booing that guy, why do they keep bringing him out? I was like, no, he wants to be booed. Like, it's hard to explain.
Yeah. I mean, unless you're wrestling fans from a couple of years ago, and a person that's supposed to be cheered is actually getting boos, Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And now it's the polar opposite. So, wrestling fans, very unique.
Yes. And we love to hate people. I'm going to boo him, but I'm still going to wear like my head of the table t-shirts.
Right. One thing I did want to mention as well is you're hosting for the Washington Wizards and the Mystics. One thing that I did want to mention too was that, the way that you're presenting on, whether that's through the Instagram, whether that's through anything on the teleprompter, or not the teleprompter, but the big screen, it is very unique because you can see that passion and you can see how much you love what you do. So can you talk about like how you started with the Washington Wizards?
Wow. I went to an audition. That's how I started. Everyone's like, how did you get in over there? I was like, one time my friend was like, hey, you should really do this. And I was like, okay, how? And he's like, I don't know. So I like Googled NBA host jobs, enter. And things popped up. I started hosting arena football in DC. So Monumental Sports and Entertainment owned the Arena Football League. I was the in-game host for Arena Football for years, and then transitioned to the Mystics. And when I joined the Washington Mystics, the WNBA team here, half the team were girls I worked with in college. Maryland women's basketball is huge. It's elite. So there were about like 5 or 6 girls from Maryland who were on the current team who remembered me because they're like, you announced our games in college. So it was really just a storybook way to blend things together. After winning the WNBA championship, going to 2 finals, getting a ring, I just knew that transitioning to the NBA would be the next step. And I wasn't given the job. I had to audition again. And I did get the job with the Washington Wizards, and I love it. I've been on air in DC almost 10 years. So I'm talking to the same people. It feels like they're family. And they're passionate about this team. One thing about a team that's not your typical team that's making the playoffs every year, who's advancing, they're really in love with the organization. If you don't have a player that you can hold on to who's had that longevity in the city, they're really obsessed with the organization and what you guys are presenting to them. Whether it's the game presentation or just the fact that they can go out and enjoy a game. I love hosting for Wizards fans. It's great. And I've had other opportunities with other teams. And it's not about hosting for a great team. I've done that with the Mystics. It's kind of like hosting for a great organization that believes in you as a person, who's going to let you be creative, who's going to let you do things outside of the box, players that are comfortable and not going to act Hollywood around you, season ticket holders who really want to be a part of the show and aren't just like, too camera shy. Organizations that are tapped into philanthropy. Like, I love working for them over many, many other teams because they have all those things that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, when you can see that passion through the screen, through the audience, through the crowd, they can really feed off of that. And that's what gets them pumped as they're seeing this one person or many people that are like, you know what? Are you going to get pumped? Is this going to be the energy that we're going to need? You know what I mean? Just like that energy. Because I see you doing that with, I believe, Dennis's name. Shout out to Dennis. It's great to see you guys have a great time during those games.
Yeah, it's one of those jobs too where you really can't live your life in a way that's unhealthy or unhappy because it'll show. And then you look around and the whole arena is unhappy because you aren't bringing the energy and encouraging them to bring the energy. So it helps me, health-wise too. I'm like, I have to make sure I'm on my A game. I'm in a good positive space just so I can perform and be well. it does feel like I'm Chris Jericho on the mic sometimes when, maybe we are in a losing streak. And I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is a promo. I'm telling you, I don't care what's going on the scoreboard. I don't care what's happening with you at work, at home. You didn't pay your $40 just to have a hot dog and a beer. You paid it to see some good basketball. And if you want some good basketball, you're going to have to promote the team. You're going to have to encourage them as well. They need to hear you make some noise. I'm not out here by myself. So it feels like a process, and it's a part of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when you have those two things, professional wrestling and sports, and you can mix them together, especially since you're cutting those promos inside of the Wizards Arena, it's awesome. It's awesome just to collaborate two loves that you have as one.
Yeah, Batista comes to some Wizards games, and it's so good because I get to tell him, like, there's similarities here, sir.
No, I'm very curious. Do you ever play I Walk Alone during those times there?
I do not. I wish. There's so many things. One of our producers and stage managers is also a wrestling fan. So we're always looking for ways to kind of like blend the two worlds. And I tell the DJ, I'm like, hey, so-and-so's here, bump this. So hopefully it'll happen one day.
Man, just imagine just in Washington, D.C., just that ovation, just like, what's this song? And then there's Batista.
We're like, what?
Oh my gosh. And speaking about those appearances, I mean, of course, celebrities do come when it comes to Washington Wizards games. Who was that one celebrity that you were in attendance for that you were like, oh, I didn't expect that guy to be here or that girl to be here?
Anyone, really. I don't count on anyone too big being at plans. I think when I was just in Vegas, I was at a Big 3 tournament and Kanye West showed up, and I'm like, really? At like the Big 3 basketball tournament, I did not expect to see Kanye West, Mm-hmm. But also being in DC, when I'm not out of town, it's always really people who you see in a different light that will be at our games. Because it's the nation's capital. It's a political town. So if you see the vice president and he's like, whoa, you're like, whoa, I'm not used to you like being in that form. So it's always good to see politicians come out and get their fangirl or fanboying on. I love that.
Oh yeah, especially when you see the figures just right there, either in the front row or the first couple rows, and you see them going crazy. You're like, I think we're gonna have a good time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I did want to mention as well is the fact that no matter what subject that you're going on, whether that's through professional wrestling, whether that's through sports or anything of that sort, you always maintain that professionalism, and you also maintain the content, and the content keeps being consistent. Like a lot of times, a lot of times when it comes to other people that have like, oh, so here's my content, and they don't have that passion, and they don't have that kind of factor where they could keep an audience interested. It's kind of hard to kind of keep that strive going. So where do you find, like, motivation wise, or if it's just anything that's, anything little too, that kind of keeps you on that path of like, okay, I'm going to give my all today. I'm going to give you this content and you're going to be interested.
Yeah, it definitely gets hard. Especially we were in some part of the season where I was doing WNBA, still doing NBA, recording my radio show, working like all of my full-time jobs, doing the news, and then like missing wrestling. So I was watching it like 2 days later or like during the day, so I couldn't live tweet. And I was like, does anyone really want to hear this? And I was like, someone does, Mm-hmm. I think it's part of what makes me happy too. It sounds weird because everyone's like, oh my gosh, you have like triple the amount of followers on Instagram, so why are you always putting so much on TikTok? Because it's easier sometimes, and it feels good for me. I don't care who watches it. I think that's the secret sauce, is like, don't look at your likes, your views, your followers, or who tells you how much you suck. Just do what makes you happy. And I'm like, I try to do it a bunch of different ways, and it only works when I'm being myself, Mm-hmm. I was like, I can't just pretend to like wrestlers I don't like. I can't pretend to like storylines that I don't like. So I'm going to give you my opinion, and to me it's right. So I'm going to tell you that I think it's right. And, that's what makes it fun for me. Some of my friends will be like, hey, are you doing that? It's like, you know what? I'm really just going to be at home filming TikToks because that's what makes me happy today.
Well, yeah, I mean, anything that makes you happy, that's the content that you put out. Like a lot of times there's people out there that are like, man, I really love this video that I made. It's about 5 minutes long. I love it. But it only has 1 view and it barely has any likes. Yep. And I'm like, are you happy that you made the content? yeah, then that's all that
Keep
matters.
doing it.
Because people, especially since I've noticed in today's pandemic era, people go back to watching stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like, of course, it's not going to go 100 views the first time, but people will. Trust me, people will.
People will. And stuff is always changing, and you don't know who out there likes what. It took me a while to put wrestling content on my Instagram page because I was so protective over it. I was like, here's where I have all my followers. Who knows? I don't want to talk crazy about wrestling. I was like, let me just put it out there and see what happens. And the first few times, everyone was like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? What is going on? I'm just like, let me just keep doing it and see what happens. And then one video go viral, another one will go viral, or you'll be live and like an actual superstar will join your live session and you're like, what is happening? But, I just say, just keep at it if it's something that you really like. And if you don't want to keep at it, stop, because people will notice.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when it comes to content that you don't want to make, you can honestly tell that's like, man, they don't like it, man. Like, why should I like it if they're not going to like it?
Yeah. I'm like, it seems like this guy on TikTok is so boring. He's just like, so today in wrestling, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, do you care? Are you having fun, sir? Is someone holding a gun behind the camera that we can't see? Like, you have to look like you're having fun, or it's not fun.
Is there a video out there, whether that's through the Wizards, whether that's through the Mystics, or any of your own content that you look back on now that you're like, man, I'm really proud of this, and I'm glad, even though if it doesn't have a lot, or maybe if it has a lot, I'm still proud of that video?
Oh my goodness. Probably every single piece of content I've ever made. But specifically, it was the first AEW Dynamite in Philadelphia. And I told my friend, I was like, I'll give you a cheesesteak if you come and you hold a camera. That's all you have to do. Of course, we get there. They're holding the camera. It starts pouring down, raining. It's like everyone that's in line is hovered underneath of this like little tent thing. Like all my electronics are failing. Half of it's done on my DSLR. The other half is on my iPhone. My makeup's ruined. I'm in my clothes that I'm going to wear to the show. So I'm soaking wet. I'm like, well, this is a fail. Like, we drove 3 hours, which should have been 3 hours, turned into like 5 hours. And I think I got like 60 views and like 10 likes. But I look back on that moment, I was like, that was so fun. That was so fun. And the people who are in the video really wanted to be in the video because they had to come in the rain to talk to me. So I was like, wow, these people that I do not know, who didn't know where this video was going, decided to come over and talk to me and have a conversation about Cody Rhodes, like, and get rained on before they have to sit for hours in a show. Like, the concept sounds crazy to me, and it didn't perform well. I use clips from it sometimes here and there, but I'm really proud of it because I'm like, wow, girl, you could have definitely said, all right, forget this. It's raining. That's a wrap. Let's just go into the show and eat. But we didn't. It was great.
It's always great when you look back at those videos and you're like, man, I'm really proud of every single one from that, or even before that. I mean, I'm so proud of those mini documentaries I would make when I was like 5 on, I think it was Movie Maker on PowerPoint. And I just make these random like pictures of frogs in there, pictures of just these random items. I don't know why. Put those in narration, put them in the video, and I look back at them. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I did this at 10. Like, whoa.
like a young legend. We see you. Like, what 10-year-old is doing that? Sometimes my old mentor, his daughter, I used to like hang out with her. She goes to Maryland, and she was like, they showed your demo reel in our class. And I was like, that had to be the most embarrassing thing. It was like all fake stories. Like I'd be like live in front of the White House talking about something that never happened. Like I just got finished out of the NBA Finals game, and I'm like outside of like a random gym, like clearly not at an NBA Finals game, doing like over the top crazy stand-ups where I'm like driving and just making it look ridiculous. And I'm like, well, at least I think it's good, because looking back on that, I'm like cringe, but like look how passionate and ambitious this girl was in college to do all these crazy stand-ups.
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you look at those beginnings, I mean, I just recently made a demo reel myself, and first time ever, because I've done like a million stuff, and like putting a demo reel now, I was like, man, what did I do? And then I like looked up everything that I did on the YouTube channel, everything that I've done in past projects, internships, and I legitimately didn't even know how to edit them together. So I'm just like, okay, boom, 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 put it together. Now I look back at that 24-minute video and I'm like, what the heck did I do?
Right. You know, it's funny, but I remember an interview with Tamron Hall, and she was like, you know, she procrastinated updating her reel, which we all do. And
Mhm.
she's like, I got a job from a reel that had been on the internet for 10 years. I'm like, what? Like, leave your stuff posted because you never know who's going to see it. I've had job offers from like random stuff and like, hey, we saw this video. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to remember to take that down.
I mean, hey, but some of those videos that are not taken down could, like you mentioned before, help you get the key to where you want to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also taught you what you didn't want to do.
Yeah, one thing I did want to mention as well is just, as we're winding down in the interview here, one thing that I did want to mention as well is just the great mindset that you have when it comes to keeping going forward and keeping going with the passion that you have. I feel like that, and I've met some friends too in college and kind of family members here and there that are like, man, like how do you keep the strive going even after a pandemic, even after all this? To keep going, and you really have a great mindset when it comes to keeping forward. So do you have any advice towards people that are like either struggling to find that or to really are struggling to keeping going with that?
Think about your future self. 100%. I always think when I'm 50, I do not want to look back and wish I had done something that I didn't do.
Mhm.
So that kind of keeps me going, and the impact that you make afterwards. I have accomplished so many first in my life, and I'm like, that's crazy that there's never been a woman to do this. There's never been a Black woman to do this. There's never been someone under the age of 30 to do that. I'm like, how? You could be the first because there's so many opportunities out there. So anyone that I can inspire keeps me going. Thinking about like regret, which isn't okay, keeps me going. And to know that you're good at something. Like, how dare you take a talent that God decided to give to you and not use it to the fullest? Like, that's selfish. That's crazy. Like, yeah, sometimes I think, I really want to be, I love Starbucks. I really want to be a Starbucks barista and just hang out, watch wrestling, not talk about it. But I'm like, God didn't make me good at talking to not talk, to like sit down and shut up. So, like, let me not waste my talents and blessings.
Oh yeah, and then speaking about if I do want to note on the Starbucks comment, actually after this, I have to go pick up my aunt from dialysis, and I have to get her a Starbucks coffee every single time I pick her up.
Make sure you get it right too.
Oh no, I do. She legitimately gives me a text. She's like, "Hey, I want," because she's a tea drinker, so she's like, "Give me a passion fruit
Me
tea."
too. Passion tango tea.
Tango tea? Okay.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So I'll make a note for that.
Right.
Try that. But once again, Britt, I do want to thank you so much for being on your story, getting a conversation, getting your story out there. But before we go, and before I make all the plugs, because with this podcast, as people know, I make a lot of plugs. I do have that final question is that it may be kind of a little bit typical, ending to every podcast, but I always like to ask you. So when it comes to Britt Waters, when it comes to everything that you have accomplished and what you're going to accomplish in the future, as the name of the podcast goes, it is your story. So my question is, are you proud of your story? Are you proud of everything that you've accomplished thus far, the struggles, the hardships, or even the accomplishments and the stuff that you've been able to do thus far?
Yes. As long as my mom's proud of me, I'm good. On the real, I've made so many sacrifices and places I'm not at right now. There's things that I've missed, like friends' weddings that I've missed just because of the lifestyle that I live. But I don't have any regrets. Just being able to do something and make a living off of doing something that you like and that actually impacts people around you, it's the most rewarding thing ever. And I am super proud of my story. And I'm appreciative for moments like this. Just having your show that allows people to share their story, allows people to get deep and have lessons learned and share those. It's so important. So definitely keep up what you're doing. I respect it.
Well, I do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Britt. And for those who are like, you know what, I want to follow Britt Waters. Where should I follow her? Well, she has an Instagram, which is at It's Britt Waters on Instagram. It's actually, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's actually listed how you could spell it. And she also does have her own website at brittwaters.com for all the highlight reels, for all the stuff that she's done thus far, and all the social media handles as well. And not only that, but you can also check her out on SiriusXM as well. So make sure you guys go check that out as well, where you can hear some great content over there. And if you're in the DC area, or if you're just in a Washington Wizards fan and you just like to get pumped up for a Wizards game, make sure you guys do that, or Mystics games, or anywhere you can find Britt Waters' content.
Yeah, I mean, I have 18 jobs. We could do this all day, but like, just follow me and you'll keep up.
Well, thank you guys so much. Make sure you guys go subscribe to me. I'm not that important, but you know what? You can try.
You're so important.
And I do appreciate it. And yeah, I'm like very bad at outros. So until we meet again, I'll see you guys in the next interview.